Major changes are coming to the New York Rangers as a new report has revealed some surprising details on the personnel heading into next season. We're also going to break down a trade update and who will be out the door this summer to make way for a new look New York Rangers team next season. We're going to break it all down in this episode of Rangers Digest. But before we do that, a quick reminder to hit that subscribe button. About 74% of you who watch these videos on the regular are not actually subscribed to the channel. So if you want to stay up to date with everything New York Rangers, this is the place to be, of course, for all your daily New York Rangers content. So go down below, hit that free subscribe button, and you get to stay up to date with everything New York Rangers. Well, let's dive right into it. There's been a lot of rumors, but now some concrete reports about who will be joining the coaching staff heading into next season with Mike Sullivan, because there's a lot of holes still. We know Mike Peca actually, if you missed that video and that report a couple weeks ago, or I guess 2 weeks ago at this point, Mike Peca is going to Chicago. So now there's some openings on the New York Rangers coaching staff. We don't actually quite know what's happening with Muse yet. We'll get into that. But I don't believe he's returning to the coaching staff. I feel like this is going to be Mike Sullivan's coaching staff, and he's going to get the pick or work at least with Chris Drury and James Dolan, since he likes to get his fingerprints on everything right now, including the Knicks. That's for a different channel. Shout out Chris over there on Knicks Digest. But a couple names I've heard are in the mix for coaching spots under Mike Sullivan with the New York Rangers. This is from Arthur Staple of The Athletic. And he said, Joe Sacco, who I really want to touch on in this video because Rangers fans should actually be excited about this if he does become an assistant coach here. Recently, the Bruins interim head coach, and they're going in a different direction. We'll get into that as well. And David Quinn, former New York Rangers head coach, who was with Sullivan in Pittsburgh last season. Quinn is a candidate for the Penguins coaching spot. Quinn is not, by the way, going to get that Penguins head coaching spot. It's either going to be Mitch Love, who is an assistant coach of the Washington Capitals last year, or DJ Smith, the former head coach of the Ottawa Senators. So that's going to be interesting to keep an eye on. That is for sure. And one thing I thought was very interesting with Joe Sacco. Who's Joe Sacco? Well, he was an assistant coach in Boston. He took over as the head coach in Boston when Jim Montgomery was fired last season in around November. And I thought this was interesting from Elliot Friedman. So another insider chiming in here. Now, this is not connected to the Rangers, but he has been connected now to the Rangers by Arthur Staple. So I thought this was interesting that Elliot Friedman went on to say that he believes Joe Sacco was told he will not be staying as the Bruins head coach, and they will be finding another head coach. And with that, he said, obviously, Lane Lambert left the Toronto Maple Leafs. He's now the head coach of the Seattle Kraken. There's a lot of movement going on with coaches this offseason so far, but now the head coach of the Seattle Kraken, and he was known for taking Toronto's penalty kill and making it very good, and they were actually a lot better on the penalty kill this season than last. And if you take a look at the penalty kill numbers for Joe Sacco with the Bruins in the last 3 seasons, 21-22, they were 9th in the league. 22-23, obviously that incredible season where they lost in the first round, they were 1st in the league, and then 7th in the league the year before that. And on top of that, since he was promoted up until December, which wasn't a large sample size, but still, the Bruins, while being awful, were actually winning some games, and their penalty kill was at 94.4%, and it was 1st in the NHL for a bit. So, and their goals against was also tied for 1st in the NHL. So that was pretty incredible to see at that time. Obviously, things did not progress there, and they traded away a lot of players. But I think this is an interesting option to join Mike Sullivan as an assistant coach because, he has great penalty kill numbers. And I wanted to bring this up as well. I was actually shocked to find this because the eye test, at least watching the games last year, did not suggest that the Rangers finished 11th in penalty kill. So not bad, certainly not horrible. But I wonder if Joe Sacco can bring the penalty kill to top 10 in the league, maybe even top 5, because he's done it before. And I think that would make the Rangers obviously that much harder to play against. They have a little bit more physicality now. I like that they added that last season. Obviously, I feel like there's still a lot of really big trades in the works. We'll get into that in a bit in this video as well. Could be very interesting. A very interesting option for an assistant coach. Again, I think Mike Sullivan should be able to pick his own because he's going to be working with them every day. But if it is Joe Sacco, I think he did some good things in Boston in a really bad situation, and he has been good as an assistant coach. So something to monitor for sure. Now, something I wanted to get into now is some trade updates. And Vince Mercogliano, there's been trade rumors flying around. There's trade reports. We know that the Rangers, this is a fact, we know that the Rangers are trying to trade K'Andre Miller and Chris Kreider right now. Chris Kreider, the biggest thing with him is health, and the biggest thing with K'Andre Miller that I'm sure a lot of teams are asking, can he actually play this sport? Because, Rangers fans are not sure about that after last season, that's for sure. But those are two guys that they're trying to move off of. We know that. Will that actually happen? We're not sure, but they are actively shopping them. Now, Vince put together a bit of a list in terms of guys who should be moved and guys who are untouchable. Now, the first people, and I'm not going to go through everything, by the way, so go check out the article because the breakdown is actually incredible and such an in-depth, and it's not just the NHL guys. This is such an in-depth look at the team heading into, what's going to be probably a very busy July for this team. So the untouchables, he lists JT Miller, Igor Shesterkin, we know those two, and Adam Fox. A lot of fans are asking for Adam Fox to be traded. I think it's ridiculous. He's a premier defenseman in this league. These three are the untouchables. You can't change my mind about it. I totally agree with this. You're never going to trade these guys, right? This is how you build a team. You have your goaltender, you have your first line center, and you have your first line or first pairing defense, right? Bang, perfect. Now, if you go on to some of the other ones, and again, I'm not going to get into everything, but not on the block, but available for the right price, I thought these were interesting, and one player in particular, because Brett Berard's on there. I guess he could be expendable for sure, right? Makes sense. Doesn't have too much NHL experience. He's shown some flashes. I like his game, but he could be expendable. Alexis Lafreniere, for sure, absolutely could be. This team doesn't know how to develop players. This is another prime example of that. I could see them trading him. I could for the right price, for sure. Brandon Othman, same situation as Brett Berard. The one interesting thing to me, or the interesting player, is Braden Schneider, because I think he's a great defenseman. I just made a video saying that I would trade him for Jason Robertson. That's a different scenario. If it's Jason Robertson on the table, then you at least have to have the conversation. But Braden Schneider is a great young right shot defenseman who just had surgery to fix an injury that he's been dealing with for 2 seasons at this point. I feel like he's going to have a great year. He's on a prove it deal. And again, he's a great young right shot defenseman. And the Rangers' right side is actually very, very good, right? It's the left side that they have to worry about at this point in time. So I thought that was interesting that his name is here because I personally wouldn't trade him unless it's for a big fish, a big splash, like a Jason Robertson, let's say. But will be very interesting. And again, it would take something very substantial. And again, this is from Vince Mercogliano in his article. Go check it out, the full thing, because it's a great in-depth look at it. He's already walled them off into previous trade talks, obviously with Lafreniere, Schneider, Kreider, Trouba was there. Trouba got traded, right, as part of the JT Miller deal. The clear preference is to keep the 23-year-old on Broadway, but they have Fox and Borgen, obviously, blocking them off the right-hand defenseman and the right side depth chart on the pairings. So, what if a third pairing defenseman could net a difference-making forward? I think it's an interesting idea, right? It would have to be an impact player. It would. You don't trade him for the sake of trading him, but you are kind of deep there on the right side. I love Schneider, but what if you can get another forward for him, a guy who can be a real difference maker, and then you allot some more money to go out and fix the defense on the left side? It's going to be something that they got to think about this year. Another thing that I thought was interesting was open the trading, but trouble finding takers. They have to move. Chris Drury's got to admit he was wrong. They have to move Carson Soucy. That contract is abysmal for what he brings to the lineup, and the fact that he was scratched the whole way. He scored 1 goal, and then he was scratched the rest of the way. Absolutely insane. They have to find a way to move this player. It's going to be hard. Matthew Robertson, I don't think I would move. Continue to develop in the AHL. I feel like he's, border. Maybe he could play third pairing minutes, right? And I've always been a huge fan of Zach Jones. I know he's small. I know the majority of you guys in the comments, all of that, don't like small players. I think he's a great talent. And are there holes in his game? Yes, absolutely, because they keep yo-yoing him between the NHL and the AHL, and then they scratch him for months at a time. So how are you going to get better if you're not playing? It's not through practice. I'll tell you that. Practice takes you so far. So I think it's going to be interesting to see what they do with Zach Jones. I haven't even mentioned him yet on the channel since the season ended. I'm a big fan of his. I think I would like to keep him, but again, you got to sign him too, right? So it's going to be interesting to see what they end up doing. But let me know in the comments what you think about Joe Sacco potentially being the next assistant coach of the New York Rangers, and all of the trade rumors, reports flying around. Who do you want to see gone? Who would you like to see come in? I think Chris Kreider is on the way out, and I think Keandre Miller, if they can find a trade partner for him, it's over. They're going to go in a different direction in terms of the left side of that defense. But let me know what you think in the comments, and if you haven't yet, hit that subscribe button so you can stay up to date with everything New York Rangers.